So here we are in Photoshop, and this is the image that we're going to work on. I just took this last night in pretty cold conditions. It was -22 with freezing fog, so I had a bit of trouble with the drone, but I got some good results and I'm happy with how it turned out. Unfortunately, I'm not going to use the image that was in the actual demonstration video because it was cloudy that day and I had to do a little sky replacement. So this is what we're going to work with. The sky is, as you see, it was there, and the foreground, so it just makes blending these two images a lot easier. With that, it's a two-piece thing, so the sky will work on first and then the foreground. So focusing on the sky, usually people have been asking me why I take so many exposures of the sky, and the basic answer to that is because when you're shooting the stars, you gotta use a very high ISO. So these photos were shot at 10-second exposures each, f2.8 at ISO 4000. So when you zoom in, you're going to see lots of grain, lots of noise. So what we do is take 10 or 15 photos, load them into the Starry Landscape Stacker, and then that works its magic and basically reduces the noise in the image and avoids any star trails. So let's do that now. What we have to do first is take our raw images and turn them into TIFF files. So these are the 10 images I'm going to work with. These ones here. And just basically in Bridge, if you have Bridge, just open the 10 images in Camera Raw and select them all. And when you're trying to do astrophotography, try and just don't use auto white balance because you have to do adjustments and get them all the same after. So it's easier if you just pick one white balance. Even if the photos come out a bit warm, you can always cool them down and whatever. So yeah, auto white balance is really a no-no for this kind of photography. So here's one image unedited, and you can see how much noise is in the image. So we're going to try and eliminate that as best we can. So what we're going to do now is take these 10 images and turn them into TIFF files so that we can use them then in the Starry Landscape Stacker. So I'm just going to do that now. And we'll just put them in our sky folder for the tutorial and save. So now there's actually 12 images. So that's going to turn them into TIFF files pretty quickly. And then we can take these images and put them into the app. Okay, so that's done. The files have been turned into TIFF files, so just press done. You don't need to save anything. Then we're going to go to the Starry Landscape Stacker. It's going to open our sky folder. It just did it automatically because I guess that's the last place I was. And you'll see now that we've got our TIFF files. So I'm just going to use 10 of these. You don't have to use them all. Like anything more than 5, maybe 10 images, and you usually get pretty good results. So I'm just going to use 10 of them. Click open. Now read the 10 images, and it will open the images as one image. So there's the combined image, and if you zoom in, you can see that there's star trails and all these red dots, and these red dots represent the stars. Now there's some that will be on the house and on the trees, and what you want to do is just erase any dots that are near the horizon line or near the house or near the trees. And when you're happy with the selection, you can go through and press Find Sky. You can also add more dots and it'll give you a more accurate result when it comes to the app finding the sky. For now, we're just going to click Find Sky up here. And now you see it's made its selection of the sky. Everything in blue is the selection for the sky. So we want to erase any masking on the ground. And you got to go in a little bit closer and see how it is around the trees. And there's a little bit there that we need to take out. And when you're happy with that, you can add more sky. And usually when, especially in areas where there's light pollution, as you get closer to the horizon, you start to see less stars. So you don't have to get extremely accurate with the selection here. And then you just click Align and Composite. And now we're going to see the final image. And you see the difference that this program has when you take 5, 10, 15 photographs consecutively of the sky and load them in to this app. So now let's take a look. This is the final image, and down here you've got the composite image, which is our final image, and then all the TIFF files that we've used to make this image. And if you click next or previous, it'll bring you to a different image, and you can see the difference that it makes in the sky. It's pretty substantial. And the selection seems to be pretty good around the trees. So with that, click Save. And we save the image there. It also offers you a mask, which would basically be just a selection of the sky, and it would leave the house and the tree out. I tend not to use it. It's up to yourselves if you want to use it. And so that's the sky done. So the next part is to do the foreground. So for the foreground, we're going to go File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack, click on Browse, come into our foreground folder and select all these images, click Open, click OK. And this is going to take a couple of minutes, so we'll just speed through this bit. So here are all of our images loaded as layers in Photoshop, and as you can see, the light trails from the drone and the areas that it paints. So this is where the photo really starts to come together. So what you want to do is, here we have our blending modes, and basically it's just different modes of opacities, lightening and darkening. And what we want to do is choose lighten. So we click on lighten, and then we can apply that blend mode to every other layer. Now you can do it individually and work your way down, but if you're working with a lot of layers, a quicker way is just to right click, copy layer style, and then come down and select all of the layers bar the last one, right click and paste layer style. And there is your illuminated image. Now it looks a little bit messy, but we're going to clean that up right away. So what we're going to do now is start adding layer masks to each image. So you just click on the layer and click this little icon here, which is add layer mask, and just add them to each image. And this is a non-destructive layer, so anything we do here will not stay on the actual image itself, so we can delete it and brush it back in and stuff. Now we're going to go and take a black brush, put it on 0 hardness, and make it a little bit bigger. And for the first image, you just turn the eye tool on and off so you can see where the light trails are. And with the black brush, gotta select this. You select the layer mask, and with the black brush, you just paint out the light trails from the drone. And you continue to work your way down the image, like so. You can also zoom in a little bit just to see a bit better. So there is the light painted house without the light streaks. Then when we're done with that, it's just a matter of pressing Command Shift E on a Mac and whatever that is corresponding on a PC. I believe it's Alt Shift, and then everything goes together. So now it's just one layer, and what we can do next is get our sky image, and there it is there. You'll see it'll be named a little bit differently than the rest of the files. Open it, and with the move tool, V on the keyboard, just drag it and drop it, and it should just click and pop into place like so. So now we have our house and our sky together, loaded as two layers. So now I like to drag down the sky layer under the house layer because it's easier to make the selection. So now we're going to make our selection. So press W for the quick select tool, which is this one, and then just slowly drag down from left to right or right to left, and eventually it's going to just like drop and make its own selection. So what we want to do here is we want to reverse that selection, so Option on the Mac, and then let's just pull this down a little bit further, and then Option again just to push it back out. Okay, so now it's made a rough selection of the house and the tree. So what I want to do now is press select the mask, and I like to use the white. There's many different types of mask views you can look at. I like to use the white one because it's good for, it gives you a good idea, especially when you're going on to work on the tree. You can see what it's really selecting. So with the refine edge tool, we're just going to paint around the tree, around the house, get this piece here and this piece here, and we're going to brush it all in, and you see how effective it is at actually selecting everything and separating and making that selection so that you can separate the sky that we want to use from the sky in the foreground. So we just brush everything in. And then we'll come over to the other side. Just brush in anything here. And then just click Smart Radius on the right hand side, feather 1 pixel, click OK. That doesn't look like it's made a good selection. But we'll see. Let's click OK and see what happens here. So now we want to invert the selection. So press Command Shift I, and now click on this layer mask, and there you go. Actually not too bad. I just hadn't painted the back, so that's why I made that selection. And that's pretty much it. Now you can take a closer look. We've got this nice sky in behind this nicely lit foreground. So there can be little areas, like this isn't a foolproof way of blending. There can be some areas that may not look so good, so you can just zoom in and have a look, but I'm pretty happy with how that looks. There's a little piece here, so what you want to do is, see, if you use a black brush, select brush, you can just brush out any little pieces, or if you use a white brush, it's just going to bring the dark sky back in. So that's what's good about using layer masks. They're non-destructive, so that it gives you a lot more workability. And that's that part. So now you can, if you want, you can just apply the layer mask to the foreground. So that's our foreground, that's the original with the sky. And now if you want to work on them independently, you can go into camera raw and do your adjustments. You can change the color on the house a little bit. You can adjust all your shadows and highlights and get things looking the way you want them looking. Just click OK. And the same, you can do the same for the sky. If you want to look a bit cooler, even more natural, you can. You can also adjust things like the texture. Don't go too crazy with these because they have a pretty substantial effect on the sky. So you can drag the highlights down, bring up the shadows, add a little bit of texture. And just get it to where you want it to be and what you're happy with. Everybody's different, everyone has different ways of doing things, and everyone has different preferences. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. It's all down to what you know and what you're happy with and how you do it. Click OK. And then if you want, you can just merge both layers. And you can work on it as a whole piece. So that's basically how I put them together. Like, there's a few more little edits that I like to do. Nothing crazy. I try and keep them as close to what the camera catches as possible. Sometimes I go a little bit off, but other than that, that's all there is to it. And I really hope this tutorial helps. It's my first time doing a tutorial, so going a little bit out of my depth here, but I'm enjoying the process. And let me know what you think in the comments. Give me a follow or subscribe, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me, DM me, message me on my website, or leave a comment below here. So that's about it. Hope everything was understandable and you get some use out of it. Okay, all the best. Goodbye.